Hello. My name is Mehul. I'm the 2021-22 president of the Neuroscience Students Association. I'm also a fourth-year student in the Bachelor of Science with Honors in Neuroscience program here at the University of Alberta. At first glance, neuroscience might seem a bit overwhelming, but it's really not that complicated. As a community of students, we're just trying to figure out how the brain and nervous system really work. All the big words and fancy jargon you might hear are just another way of getting at this. So, the way this video will pan out is first I'll give you a brief introduction to the program as a whole. Then I'll give you some details about the layout of the degree. We'll talk about what it's like to be a student in neuroscience, and I'll also talk about admissions. Afterwards, I'll try to answer some frequently asked questions that you might have. Each of these sections will be taking place at a beautiful location on the University of Alberta Northern Campus, so stay tuned. This is the quad. It's the central green space here at the University of Alberta. It's also the perfect place to play a game of frisbee in Edmonton's beautiful summer weather. Calling this the heart of campus wouldn't be a stretch, as it's home to several events throughout the year, like Week of Welcome, Science Week, and Clubs Fair, to name a few. If that doesn't entice you, then it's just a great place to eat lunch. Maybe not in the winter, though. So at this point, you might be wondering, what actually is neuroscience? Well, according to the dictionary, neuroscience is any of all the sciences that deals with the structure and function of the brain and nervous system. So clearly, neuroscience is pretty interdisciplinary. In fact, it ranges from a bunch of fields, from clinical neuroscience to behavioral neuroscience and everything in between. We are currently standing in the Students' Union building, more commonly known as SUB. It is owned and operated by the Students' Union here at the U of A. It is a hub of student activity, including CSJS, the university's own radio station, the Gateway, the U of A student magazine, the bookstore, photo studios, printing services, and even a theater. It houses all the SU services, as well as most of its businesses too. Other than that, SUB has comfortable seating spaces, it has awesome food, and is a great place to relax between classes. Okay, now we're going to move on to some details about the neuroscience program. It holds the students to the greatest degree and pushes them to do better. As a neuroscience student, you're expected to maintain a minimum of 3.3 GPA over a full course load, which is defined as 5 courses per semester for a total of 10 courses per year. There are many specialties about the neuro program too. As a neuroscience student, you get access to courses that people in other degrees don't. Since neuroscience is an honors degree, you also have the opportunity to receive valuable research experience incorporated within the degree itself. On top of this, neuroscience is directly managed by the Neuroscience and Mental Health Institute, which means you get close connections with faculty and professors that you might not receive in another program. All in all, neuroscience is an academically rewarding degree for high-achieving students. Welcome to the NSA Student Office. This is where we operate from. It's also a space for neuroscience students to hang out, and the NSA will be here throughout the week to answer your questions, help you navigate the program, as well as hand out our merch. Aside from an exceptional academic experience, there's also lots of opportunities to get involved in student life. At the start of the year, the NSA hosts a special orientation for all our first-year students, with lots of fun and food. We also often offer research mixers, social get-togethers, mental health supports like puppy therapy, fundraisers, volunteer opportunities, lab tours, career days, podcasts, tutoring, info nights, the undergraduate neuroscience conference, and a unique graduation experience for our fourth years. We believe that university is more than just an educational institution, but that it's also a source of inspiration and enduring friendships. We're sure that you'll make a bunch of lifelong relationships with several of your fellow neuroscience students throughout the course of your studies.
So I first became interested in neuroscience from my biology 30 course in high school, and as you know, it talks about the brain, and my teacher also had mentioned something called stem cells and the possibilities of stem cells and the brain and the benefits it could have moving forward. Really got me interested in joining the program.
Well, I really like how research intensive it is. Like so far, I've already got to work with a couple profs. Like they're very easy to approach, first of all, especially in the neuro program. Like there's just like a whole website dedicated to like listing profs and their research interests, and I thought that was really nice. So yeah, like research, and I'm also interested for the fourth year research project, which we all get to do in neuro. So yeah.
One of the advice I'd give anyone who's interested in neuroscience is that the first year can be a bit general, but I say trust the process and wait for the higher years where it does get more specialized in learning about neuroscience. And yeah, just choose it if you like it.
We're standing right now at the entrance to the Centennial Center for Interdisciplinary Science, CSIS for short. CSIS is where a lot of your first year classes will take place, especially the science ones, as well as several in your upper years. This lecture theater can hold over 400 students and is often used for first year classes. You'll definitely see it sometime in your first year, for instance, in Chem 101. And of course, we can't mention university without talking about coffee. Thankfully, there's a Starbucks and a Remedy in this building for all your coffee needs, as well as 3 Tim Hortons just a short walk away. Right now, we're on the 5th floor of CSIS, and behind me is the observatory, which is often open for public viewing for any of my fellow space geeks out there. So, the University of Alberta is a pretty cool place, and the neuroscience program is a great degree to complete if you're interested in how the mind works. So, at this point, you might be wondering, how do I apply, and what do I need to get into neuroscience? So keep in mind that preparation to get into neuroscience starts in high school, and you need the following courses to apply. English 30-1, Math 30-1, 2 courses from the following, Bio 30, Chem 30, Physics 30, Math 31, as well as Comp Sci 30, and 1 course from the Fine Arts, Humanities, Languages, Math, or Science. Keep in mind that these are the only courses used for admission, so you should have a pretty high average in them, as the Faculty of Science becomes increasingly competitive with each passing year. I'd also like to mention that although they're not technically required, Chemistry 30, Biology 30, and Physics 20 are prerequisites for first-year neuro courses, so we really recommend that you take them. The applications for entry into the fall term are now open via ualberta.ca/admissions. We'll also provide a list of relevant links at the end of the video for your reference. Right now we're sitting at one end of Hub Mall. This is a common first-year residence, as you can probably tell by all the windows behind me. And like so many other places on campus, it's a great place to study and eat. So now let's move on to some questions you might have. First of all, what's the difference between psychology and neuroscience? Well, psychology is the study of the mind as an abstract concept, and how we can use it to understand human behavior. On the other hand, neuroscience focuses more on the chemical and biological processes in the brain and nervous system and how that creates behavior. So now let's move on to the next question. What's the difference between physiology and neuroscience? Well, physiology focuses on the functions and activities of all the body systems, but neuroscience specializes in the functions of the nervous system in particular and its interactions with the other body systems. But obviously there's a bunch of overlap between both of these. For instance, we have neurophysiology and neuropsychology. You might also be wondering, what are some potential career options after neuroscience? I can name a few. We have clinical neuropsychiatrist, neurophysiologist, diagnostic imaging specialist, lab technician, neurologist, mental health specialist, pharmacologist, as well as research scientist. Now I want to move on to some common misconceptions you might have heard about the neuroscience program. To start off, a lot of people say that the 3.3 GPA requirement is too high. Well, it might be higher than the requirement in the general science program, which is a 2.7, and other honors degrees, which have a 3.0, but it's definitely manageable if you put in the time and effort. Very few students actually struggle to meet the requirement, which speaks to the talent in our student pool. The next misconception is that there's no freedom in the courses you can take in neuroscience. While it's true that in first year you might be limited in the electives you can choose, in second, third, and fourth year you have a lot more freedom to plan your courses as you want them, not just in electives, but also in the areas of neuroscience that interest you the most. The last misconception I want to address is that neuroscience students have no life outside of school. While it's true that university is definitely harder than high school and you probably won't have as much free time, as long as you stay on top of your stuff, a life outside of university is not only possible, but is the reality for most neuroscience students. In fact, as you move up the years, the degree becomes less and less burdensome, meaning you have more time to dedicate to things that matter to you besides schoolwork. Neuroscience here at the U of A is a fantastic program if you want to learn more about the brain and nervous system in a world-renowned institution by award-winning faculty in a rewarding and interdisciplinary degree. Or if you're eager to get involved in neuroscience research, and also if you want to pursue a professional program after your undergrad. So if you see yourself as a future neuroscience student, make sure to apply at ualberta.ca/admissions. If you have any specific questions you want to ask about the neuroscience program, make sure to reach out to our course coordinator at honneuro@ualberta.ca. And lastly, don't forget to follow the Neuroscience Student Association on Instagram at ualbertaneuro, as well as check out our website, nsaualberta.wordpress.com, where you'll find a lot more information about neuroscience and your future day-to-day life as a neuroscience student.